The live stream was yesterday. Bunch of new banners have been released. Let's talk about it, and let's talk about my poll plans. Who am I pulling and who am I skipping this month? Keep in mind, for the mysterious banners that they put at the end of the stream, we're going to be assuming that those banners are going to be Kadaj and Deuce. Let's get started. Moving first to the people that I am planning on pulling for. First is Selh'teus. What's great about Selh'teus is, well, let me just address the elephant in the room first. He looks fantastic, all right? This dude looks like a final boss in a Devil May Cry game. He looks absolutely stunning. I would go gay for this man, okay? But let's talk about what he does in the game. There's two things of note that I want to talk about. First is the party revive. He is able to revive the party with his EX, even in 6-man scenarios where people in the back are dead. Well, to my knowledge at least, which obviously reviving people from death is a very, very nice thing to have. And it's not linked to a BT either. You can revive as many times as you want in the fight. The second thing I want to talk about specifically is his BT debuff. It is a golden framed BT debuff in which it has HP poison that is scalable to the enemy's health, and it is a paralysis. It is an 8-turn debuff that will drain 1% of an enemy's health every turn, and of course 8-turn paralysis. That's fantastic. Of course you can't spam this move because it comes from his BT, but as long as you're not making the enemy move a crap ton, I think 8 turns of paralysis is more than enough for an enemy. Now, is Selh'teus a top tier unit? Not really, but he's also one of the few people that can party revive. I really find him unique. I find him really badass looking, and yeah, overall I think he's gonna be really fun to use. The next one is Fujin. Fujin is a much more meta relevant character than Selh'teus in my opinion because of her very big launch boosts. Well, first things first, we gotta talk about her party wind enchant. It's very nice, and with Fujin's BT active, she can enable everyone to launch, and I think that's a very good thing. It also makes her FR viable now. It's much easier to attain her FR conditions now that her BT enables everyone to launch. And not only that, her BT and FR also give big launch damage boosts. Not only are you going to be launching a lot, but your launch damage will be upgraded a lot. And if you already have people who have their own mid-air follow-ups like Sid Reigns, Aranea, they themselves are gonna boost the damage even more. If you like launch teams to any degree, I highly recommend you consider getting Fujin, and I myself will be gunning for her as well. The last unit that I have my eyes on is Kadaj. Kadaj is very, very good. First things first, he gives multiple debuffs, and because of one of his effects, all of the debuffs that he himself inflicts will be gold framed. Gold framed debuffs cannot be cleansed by the enemy whatsoever, so in that regard I think they're very valuable. Second off, his linked attack is busted. Kadaj has a very fun follow-up of 6 HP attacks that happens after all of his HP attacks when his debuff is at max, but his BT has a very fun effect where anyone in the party attacks an enemy with Kadaj's max debuff. That's going to also trigger Kadaj's follow-up attack. The linked attack and the follow-up does stack together, by the way, so if Kadaj attacks with his BT on and the debuff is max, guess what? He's going to follow up himself, and then because of his BT, he's going to link attack. So that means you're dealing 12 HP attacks per Kadaj turn with his BT active and the debuff is max. Kinda crazy if you ask me. And in terms of single target damage, you know he's already shot up at one of the best. Very, very good damage by himself, and also a really, really good linked attacker. If you're a fan of just straight damage, Kadaj could be a good fit for you. Now that we've gotten through the units that I most definitely will want to get, let's go to the maybes. I have 2, Deuce and Cater. Deuce, a lot of people are going to talk about Deuce, and that is because she is a very good force charger. Now, I know what you're saying. We already have so many force chargers. What's another one? Let me tell you, Deuce is a force charger that is force enhanced 50. The difference between force enhanced 50 FR charging and regular force enhanced 30 charging is that force enhanced 50 charges significantly faster. So her FR charging is going to be among the best in the game, along with Renoa, by the way, with her rework in force level 50. But what makes Deuce's FR charging that much better, in my opinion, her FR charging move will increase all of her buffs by 1. So that means if you just spam her FR charging move, none of her buffs are ever going to expire. You don't have to worry about having to refresh any buffs with skills after you're done charging with Deuce. I think that's a really, really convenient thing to have. It's really nice being able to spam a move and not having to worry about refreshing anything. And on top of that, you have very, very good healing. You have very, very good battery, brave support, bare bones thing. things that a good support unit would have. Apart from her amazing FR charging, I don't find her that different compared to all the other support units I have. I don't find her that different to Aerith. I don't find her that different to Rem. She's just a really solid healer, brief support. Nothing flashy to her. She just does her job really well. I'm not putting her in the top priority of pulling because, frankly, I find her a bit basic. And also, Kadaj is coming around the same time as her, so I might have to save my resources for him instead. That being said, I do think Deuce is a really good unit. Kader next. Kader has a fun combo in which she, first off, gives the entire party evasion, which is nice. But also, with her debuff, Frost Stealing Shot, given by her LD, she also has access to Brave Freeze. Brave Freeze is a very broken effect, and a very few number of people have it. Most of the time, if enemies have Brave Freeze, where they can't increase their Brave at all, they won't be able to deal any damage to you. Not only do you have party evasion, but in case any guaranteed hits happen in a fight, you also have Brave Freeze on the enemy to make sure that you don't die from any attacks. I think that's a really good security measure. With her on the board, it's going to be very hard for the boss to kill you. And also on the offensive side with Kader, she has quite a bit of counter damage herself. The only way you can really die is if, say, a Lufenia or Rish and Ryu orb ticks down, or if they take, I don't know, 10 turns at a time with nothing but heavy hitting AoE attacks. That's the only way I personally see you dying. However, the reason why I don't have her in the absolute pulling section is because her skill damage itself is not that high from what I've seen, and her FR conditions themselves are very volatile. What I mean by that is, in certain scenarios, her FR works amazingly. Her first condition will give a 5% for every single ice attack done, and that includes off-turn damage, by the way, so that can stack up. However, her only other condition is that someone evades an attack. At 50%, you can clearly see which of the two conditions will give you more numbers. If you try and run Kader in a very boss rushy, fast-paced offensive team, and you use her as your main, it might not go up that high, if you ask me. Even if you have a lot of off-turn damage to you, 5% is still 5%. It's not that much. From what I've seen, I would only recommend using it as the main when Kader is in a slow team or a defensive team. If you ask me, I don't see it being good anywhere else. Now to the skip sections. We have Zidane, Fusoya, and Ciaran. Why are they in the skip? Let's start with Zidane first. Zidane is a breaker, turn deleter. His FR conditions, I gotta say, are some of the easiest in the game. Make sure you're attacking an enemy with at least one debuff, and the other condition is breaking or attacking a broken target. On top of that, his BT has a funny little effect where if Zidane debuffs an enemy, he is going to fully heal the party and he's going to fully battery the party. So his burst gives a surprising amount of utility given his initial role as a unit. Why is he in the skip? It's because Zidane's damage, even though his BT gives him pretty high cap ups for himself, his damage isn't the best, I have to say. When I was looking into how much damage his skill damage does, I think the highest I saw was 7-8 HP attacks, in that range. Only 7 to 8 HP attacks at a time in this day and age for someone like Zidane, it's not that impressive to me, I gotta say. Because of how Zidane works, and that you get instant turn rate whenever you break an enemy, it's gonna be pretty difficult for Zidane to not hog turns in Force Time, for example, because of his constant instant turn rate breaking, where you would much rather have someone else who deals much more damage take up the turns instead. Even though he does have a very good FR, it kind of gets ruined by the fact that he himself hogs a lot of turns when his damage isn't the best. I wish they just gave him a follow-up or something. That would have been very, very helpful to him. But at this point in time, my biggest problem with him is that he's too fast and his damage isn't the best for me. Fusoya! Fusoya is a very staple paralysis character in the game since his debut. He gives some of the most consistent AoE paralysis out of anyone. And great thing about his FR is when it's active, it will passively heal the party. You don't have to do anything on your part. It will happen automatically. And I think that's a pretty cool plus. He's not really that viable to be a main support in my opinion, but I'd never complain at a little extra help in the utility side of things. My biggest problems with Fusoya and why he's in the skip is his BT effect is way too short in my opinion. His BT effect is 6 turns, and I don't even think his BT effect is that broken to warrant being 6 turns. I really think it could have been 8. His BT basically will make it where Fusoya inflicting paralysis will last longer and will also give him a sizable HP cap ups for himself. Even with the HP cap ups, even with the increased paralysis, Fusoya's damage still isn't that impressive. I wouldn't even say he's on the level of a magic DPS. Secondly, paralysis all in all, while it is great as kind of a side feature in a kit, to have it be your main identity per se isn't really that appealing to me. You can't even compensate with his damage or his support because neither of them, while they are decent, I guess, they're not gonna carry him. His main shtick, the thing that he is by far the best in of itself, doesn't appeal to me like that. But hey, if you like units that specialize in paralyzing the enemies a crap ton, by all means use him. He's just not really for me personally. Lastly, on this skip section, I have Ciaran. Ciaran was someone that I actually really wanted to build back in his BT Plus, back in the Lufenia Plus era, because one thing that I found really enjoyable from him is his very high Brave supports and his high party HP cap ups, and those strengths aren't really any different here. Ciaran will still give you very high party HP cap ups, and his Brave supports are very strong. He can very easily be your main support for Brave, but the problem with him is that's all he has really. And even then, with his HP cap ups, they're not fully consistent. They're not going to be at their highest the entire fight because it is based on his overhead effect, drops of Merc. His overhead needs to be max in order for him to fully utilize his HP cap ups. One of his strongest skills lowers that drops of Merc count below 5, meaning unless you use his LD, which is very limited, you're going to have to resort to a significantly weaker attack in order to build that overhead back up. And that's a bit annoying because even when you look at Ciaran's skill damage, it's not that good. The strongest skill that I was talking about, his skill 2, deals 7 HP attacks. With Splash, of course, but 7? Even for a support unit, that's kinda, His strongest moves are his LD, EX, and of course his skill 2. And the strongest of which, his LD, only is 8. He's no queen, by the way. His HP cap ups are high, but they're not queen level. Dealing 8 HP attacks at the max without having any sort of healing, without any sort of cleansing, dispelling, FR charging, barely having any wars for defense, if at all. Also accounting the fact that his FR echo doesn't even raise his overhead. Yes, for the average unit, he has quite a bit of HP cap ups, and his Brave supports are going to definitely carry your team. But if that's all you have as a unit, I'm not that invested in getting you. From my view, there are much better supports that are out right now who not only deal more damage but have much more utility, much more versatility, and more consistent HP cap ups. That's just me. Those are my pull plans. Let me know how you guys feel about the future banners coming up. Let me know who you are pulling for. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys next time. Bye!